Good morning, everybody. It is a Friday. It is our third episode of Full Out Chats. Welcome. I am your host, Steve Solberg. And yes, it's time to go full out.
Are you ready? Full Out Chats. Do you know what time it is? Yo, take control. We got the right, we got the vision. You lose sight. We will never stop. We got the drums, What time is it? Full Out. We're live in 5, 6, 7, 8.
Well, what the music means, yes, we are going full out again. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope all is well. I hope you are all doing social distancing and trying to stay as sane as possible out there. I know we're all getting a little stir crazy, but it is what is best. Very excited for today's show. We have Reece White joining us here in a few minutes. Reece is a former athlete from the University of Kentucky and a former assistant coach there, now living in Indianapolis. And, let's get right into it. It looks like we are ready to go with Reece White. Reece,
how we doing?
How you doing, man? Can you hear me all right?
Hear you great. How about
awesome.
me?
I can hear you perfectly also. This is awesome. Thank you again for being here and joining me here on a Friday morning. And I know you have a very interesting story, and I wanted to let you be able to tell it to people, and also kind of just, share your insights and everything about what cheerleading has done for you and what the industry has done for you and everything, and how it led you from kind of small town Wisconsin down to up to Minneapolis, down to Lexington, and now in Indianapolis. I think you have a really cool story. So I'm just really excited to give you a platform to share that.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a long story. Hopefully it's a pretty interesting one, but happy to share it.
Awesome. Well, let's start from the beginning. I've told people I've known you now for many years, and I think we met when you were a junior or senior in high school, because I was at Wisconsin, and I remember trying to talk you into going, at least looking at Wisconsin, and you had zero interest in Wisconsin. That's all right. Ironically, I know you talked to me before. You were actually looking at Purdue. Purdue was an option for you at the time. But kind of just from the beginning, I know you're, like I said, an excellent athlete, a good cheerleader in high school. So kind of start from the beginning, though. Where did you grow up, family life, and kind of from there.
All right. Well, I grew up in a very small town called Thiensville, Wisconsin. It was 1 square mile. Didn't even have its own public school system. So I ended up going to the bigger school system right next door. But from a small area that was part of a large area, went to, I grew up, just going to school. I did just about every activity there was, from gymnastics classes, tennis, soccer, wrestling, baseball, you name it, I did it growing up. And then I went to Homestead High School in Mequon, Wisconsin. And from there, that was when I started cheerleading when I was a freshman in high school. I was not very good at all, but it was something that I kind of always saw, there was always another challenge and something going on. So when I first started there, I got hooked like everybody. Mm-hmm. And, from there, I actually have 2 older brothers and a younger sister that I grew up with, and, just like, pretty normal. Then later in life, I picked up a stepsister and a half sister that are great as well. Family was very supportive when I first started cheerleading when I was in high school. There are a lot of people that had, questions, or, it's starting cheerleading when you're in high school as male is not always the easiest or most popular decision. But it was something that as time went on, I had supportive friends and family, and along with, a strong group of people that were, after, it wasn't just, oh, you're just trying this, and it became, hey, this is what you're doing. Everybody kind of came around.
Jomo was on yesterday. We talked about that, how, especially with males, you get hooked real quick. I mean, it's either you love it or you don't kind of thing, within probably like 30 minutes, like
Yeah,
if that.
one practice.
Yeah. That's what I said. Yeah, one open gym, in one open gym, either you're addicted or you just have zero interest kind of thing. What was the moment, what did you do or see when you were like, this is freaking cool, this is awesome, I want to keep doing this?
Well, so when I was probably 8 or 9, I was fortunate enough to go to a gymnastics gym that, or be a part of that and learn how to flip and just have a space where I could, do whatever I wanted. And then I took, the men's coach there moved, and so I stopped doing it for years. When I went to my first practice, my high school coach, she really wanted to have a co-ed team. So what she did was, if you were an incoming freshman, to come to spring practices, oh yeah, there you go. To come to spring practices, you had to bring a male with you. And so I had somebody that lived near me that really, I'm gonna use the word tricked me, but who knows, from how the story has evolved over the years, but got me to come to practice, to one of their spring practices, so they could and try it. And everybody, you walked in and practice was in a cafeteria with some panel mats and a wedge, and they started teaching me, showing me some stunts and and then having me try it, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, you're so good at this. And I was able to throw a back handspring down the wedge, and they, from there I was like, all right, this is what I got to do. Everybody was super friendly. It involved flipping, which I already knew that, I enjoyed doing and wanted to start doing again. So, and it was something different for me. So it didn't take much time.
So you're known for being a very well-rounded cheerleader. You were, when you were at Kentucky, during that time frame, but even before, like, what really impressed me, and I think still impresses people, but during that era, was just how well the guys could tumble and stunt. You guys were just very well-rounded. But when you started cheerleading in high school, you didn't have you didn't have any of that skills. Those are skills that you did develop.
No, like I said, when I first started, I was not very good. I think the conception is once you get there, everybody thinks that, you're always there. But I part of the reason I was well-rounded, or that I feel like I was so well-rounded at Kentucky, was because I started out pretty rough. Like, I had a little bit of tumbling experience. Like, when I first started, I could do a back handspring. By my second year, I could do a tuck, and then my third year, I started twisting, and then I had consistent twisting my senior year of high school. But I didn't have any of that. One of the things that just was very, very fortunate that kind of happened to me, and even kind of sparked my cheer coaching career, was when I first started cheerleading my freshman year. The gym that we went to was a gymnastics gym, and they had a very, very small all-star program that they were trying to start. And the male coach there was a Army reservist and got called into duty, and he had to leave. So they were looking for somebody to come in and just be a spotter for that team. And, they needed somebody to do that. And so they asked me to do it, and I did it. And so by doing that, it also opened the doors for me to be in that facility a little bit more, to learn more, to practice my tumbling, to where I got a lot of experience in that I might not have had I not had that opportunity.
So you got to Homestead, and a lot of people that, probably don't know about co-ed cheerleading in Wisconsin.
Well, it's so popular.
Yeah. But I will say, at the time when you and I were coming up, looking back, there was actually a lot of really good talent and a lot of good team. I cheered at Wisconsin Rapids, and we had 20 guys on the team my senior year, and Homestead was an excellent program. You guys were really good. Sun Prairie was really good. It was actually a lot of really good talent. When you got to the high school level and started getting into it, first of all, at your high school, did you have to do game day and competition? And then because after knowing you for many years, Reece, you are one of the most competitive people I've ever met. How did competitive cheerleading at Homestead really when did you notice, like, this is something that you're taking very seriously?
Well, I cheered games. So our high school program was, a traditional program. We had practice every day after the week, or from Monday through Thursday right after school. And then we had games on Friday nights. So we were kind of that traditional program, and I cheered games. As you can probably see in those pictures, I also had to jump, I had to dance, I had to do everything that there was. There wasn't something where, hey, I just did, I just stunted and tumbled. I had to do everything, and that was, it was something from my coach. I had an awesome high school coach. Her name's Amy Gable, and that competitiveness, I think, comes partly from being the youngest of three brothers. I was always pushing to try to get ahead of them, and everything that they were always ahead of me. So I was always trying to catch up. And same thing kind of happened in high school. I started out and I was not very good. One of the things I tell a lot of my athletes is it did take me 3 years to get toss hands. So I started out as a freshman, and I finally got toss hands when I was a junior in high school. And then, that's kind of when things took off and became, very, very competitive. I started taking training a lot more seriously, started stunting a lot more. Being able to do that helped quite a bit. And then in my last year, went from from just getting toss hands, and then, 12 months later, being able to do full up QPs. So, yeah, it took off and, kind of went exponentially at a certain point, but it took a lot of failures to get there.
Before we move on here, you talked about your childhood a little bit. I'm going to pop up this great picture that you sent me. Explain the picture. Why'd you send that to me?
I sent that to you because that was probably my third or fourth thing ever doing cheerleading. So I started literally maybe that's the summer before my freshman year of high school. I had went to a couple of practices, and I believe at that point, if I remember correctly, UCA camp was optional for our team, but a lot of people did it. And so that was the first day of the first UCA camp I ever attended.
Oh my God. Okay, cool.
And so, I was, glasses, braces, the great haircut, not super athletic, very, very coordinated, but not the highest level athlete at that moment.
It's that time frame where we're all very good looking people, not.
Yeah. So, and that's something that, a lot of people who I went to high school with like to remind me about.
I love it. So for those of you joining us now, again, I'm here with Reece White, interviewing him about his experience growing up in Wisconsin and eventually getting into kind of his college career now. But just a reminder, at the bottom of if you look at the bottom there, you're going to see a question mark that kind of looks like a deck of cards. Feel free to shoot some questions over, and towards the end here, we'll do a Q&A with Reece. So feel free to send us any type of questions. So your senior year of high school, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, you won state partner stunt, correct? I remember that routine. Really good.
We had been close for a while. My high school won, and then won partner stunts.
Yeah. Okay. So you won team and partner stunt that year.
Correct.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember that. And then I remember you actually went up to the University of Minnesota for your freshman year, for your first year. I'm not mistaken, you and a couple of teammates from Homestead went there, or one teammate, or did a couple of you guys Minnesota?
Well, so somebody that I cheered with at Homestead that was older than me was already there, and then one of my teammates also went up with me to Minnesota that year.
Okay.
So okay. I had worked with the coach up there, had worked with my high school team before, and so and then he had recruited and brought up some of my other teammates. And then, so to me, I knew people up there. I could get in-state tuition, so it seemed like a no-brainer.
So talk about your experience at Minnesota. How was the game day? How was just what I guess Big Ten school is a Big Ten school, big school, and I know that actually before you get into that, I know you said you talked to me about Purdue and that you're actually looking at Purdue. What schools were you looking at? Because I mean straight up, I know especially at the time, but even today, when a high school senior guy can throw a full and do a toss QP, full of QP, I mean, that guy's going to get recruited. I mean, that guy, but I do know at the time recruitment for college cheerleading wasn't as hot as it is now. But
kind of, I guess, where were you looking, and kind of how were you getting recruited at the time, even though it was, mid 2000s?
Looking back, I really had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't have a whole lot helping me. No, there wasn't. There were people at different universities around, locally, like Madison, like UW Madison, and I obviously Minnesota, that had been recruiting me. But the rest of it, I just kind of did on my own. Recruiting now isn't what it was. Also, my high school team, we didn't go to UCA Nationals.
Yeah.
We went to Can-Am Nationals in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because our state competition was the same weekend as UCA, and so our school had us always go to the state competition. Mm-hmm. So I never got to compete at UCA high school, so I've only done UCA college, but so I didn't get a lot of exposure to different colleges. So a lot of the recruiting or different schools that I was looking at, I looked at on my own, and looking back, I had no idea what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So I was looking at Minnesota. I looked at Purdue, which back then was an NCAA school. Mm-hmm. Which, I said that I had to jump and dance in high school, but they were not my strong suits. I did them, and if I was going to do it, I wanted to do it well. But those were not the things that I enjoyed the most, which, if I was going to do that, probably, we're going to be a little bit more important. But I also was looking at, I also applied to Hawaii Pacific and to Louisville, were the other schools. And then I had two schools that I was applying to that had nothing to do with cheerleading, but to Dartmouth, and then a small school down in Florida. But those were non-cheer related schools. But yeah, so it was very I didn't have anybody knocking my doors down.
Mm-hmm. So you through your freshman year at Minnesota and did the game day and competed there. Then kind of talk about how you found out about Kentucky and how you ended up making the decision that you were going to try out there, and then eventually going down to Lexington.
Yeah, so it just, was one of those things that just kind of all lined up and happened. After my first year at Minnesota, it just wasn't a good fit for me. So people had known that was something, and I talked to somebody that I worked UCA staff with who was a Kentucky cheerleader, that just said, and I'd kept in contact with, it was just like, hey, like, you should really come down and come to our clinic and just check this out if you're not planning on cheering there anymore. Long story short, I ended up going down to the clinic, and I had a very, very, very good time. That's where I met Keo for the first time. Somebody that I've been around a lot now, but that's when I first had met him, and had a great time at the clinic. And at that point, Jomo asked me to come down and try out, which back then was just 2 weeks later. And I said, yeah. And I said, hey, I don't know.
Went down to check it out, try it out. And then all of a sudden, I gotta make a decision here.
Yeah, I just kind of went down for fun. And then they were like, hey, no, like, we really want you to try out. We'd be considering you for our blue squad. And so I was like, wow, I mean, okay, well, I'll talk to my family and see what I can do. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate enough that my father helped me out, and I ended up going down and trying out, which was the year that they did the Cheerleader U in 2007. Was my freshman year tryouts. And it was something that I was just very, very unsure about. I was getting ready to just hunker down hard on school and being a student, but I was like, hey, like, this opportunity is in front of me. I need to make sure that I'm taking it. And at tryouts, I really felt like there was a lot of people better than me. My tryout kind of went horribly because, during that process, if you watch the show, people get cut from practice to practice.
Yeah.
And the practice right before the final tryout, all the people that I was doing my tryout with got cut.
Like the girls?
Yes, all the females that I had been practicing my tryout with for my tryout, all got cut right then. Luckily,
you had all these stunts lined up, ready to go, and then they're gone. You can't even do it.
Yeah. Well, the people I was doing them with were all no longer going to be in the tryout process.
Wow.
So I went, So luckily, Jomo, he kind of pulled me aside. I think he knew that had happened, and that I was using those people. and just, he found some returners and said, here you go. You're going to do it with these people instead. And so because there wasn't a whole lot of time to practice, we had a couple of times. I didn't hit most of my tryout on the first try, which is something I know that they really, really look for. But I think because of that, and because they knew the situation and they were looking, at the overall body of work, I was very, very fortunate that they did select me for the Blue Squad. And, I think I tell people all the time, I think the best decision I ever made was deciding to go. It wasn't necessarily an easy decision. For most people, it would have been, oh my gosh, like, I got to do it. But that's really what it ended up being, was that, hey, like, there's this opportunity in front of you, and even if it doesn't go well, like, you should take it. But it's ended up being one of the best decisions I've ever made.
I agree. Like, whenever I give advice to people, especially when I was coaching high school, but even now, as these college graduates are looking at places to go, or I always say, you can do anything for a year. You can do anything for 1 year. And if you absolutely hate it and you don't like it, leave, go back home. I think you can do anything for at least a year. I 100% agree. So, when you were saying that you were ready to be just a student. So were you ready to just give up cheerleading and just be a student and kind of give it up and be done with it?
Yeah, that was my plan at the time. Yeah. I mean, my plan at the time was to just continue with school and, really, really focus on my studies, because I did have pretty high aspirations in that department as well. So, and things that I wanted to do. So I really, wanted to, with that was what was in my mind, what I was going to do prior to visiting Kentucky. And, I had a lot of preconceived notions about Kentucky going into it, which, were obviously all incorrect, not about the cheerleading program, but just about the state and the people there. But when I went, it was just like everywhere else. I absolutely loved it. The people were amazing. The community was amazing. Everybody was super friendly. So it was awesome. You should save that picture for later. I've got a really funny story about that.
For this picture?
Yes, that one.
Then we'll wait for it.
It's a coaching story, but yeah. So
okay.
But I went down there, or when I went to Kentucky, there were a lot of there at the time. I'd really thought that I wasn't gonna continue cheering at that point, and then decided to, and yeah.
So you're in Lexington. So you, in basically a 3-week span, decide, I'm going to go just go check it out, test the waters. Oh my gosh, I'm trying out. Holy cow, they selected me for Blue Squad which is a big deal. I mean, people that don't understand the Kentucky program, to be selected for Blue Squad out of tryouts is a huge deal. I mean, that's a huge deal. So now you have to make a decision. It's out of state, obviously. You got to figure different things out. Where are you going to live, like financials, all that stuff. So you figure it all out. You're moving to Lexington. So you're in Lexington. You get there. And kind of what was your first impressions, because you said it best. A lot of people have these preconceived notions about Kentucky, not just the state, but the program, things like that. So kind of what were some of if you can remember, kind of some of the eye openers for you once you got to Lexington, you're actually there?
For me, the biggest thing was just kind of how friendly everybody was, all of my teammates and the community at large. But like everybody was incredibly friendly, was incredibly nice, incredibly supportive. Obviously, as being a new person on any team, like, you have no idea how this works. You have no idea what's going on. What I really, really liked about it, I really liked Jomo's coaching style. I liked how he was, he had everybody involved. Things were pretty laid back in terms of how practices went. We had our practice schedule. We had the way practices were going to go, and they just kind of went that way. So I really liked the structure of the program as well. It was a good fit for me. So I really enjoyed that. And everybody was very, very hardworking. We were able to accomplish a lot in, a small amount of time, because everybody was great at working together. They were great at, helping figure stuff out and problem solve. And so we got a lot in sometimes what, was not a large span of time.
Mm-hmm. So you made Matt your first year there. You competed. Kind of explain the process of your first nationals experience making Matt for UK.
So this was back when there was taping. For those of you that don't remember what that was, you know, we have Kentucky used to take 2 weeks to tape, and so that means that you have practice every single day for 2 weeks. You know, until you get the stuff taped that you need to get taped. So some practices were shorter, some practices were longer. You know, but that was something that, you know, was a trying, it was always a trying process because, you know, you're doing skills over and over and over again. But I really enjoy taping because I feel like it perfects and helps teams look really good. So the process was not always fun, but I felt like it was very effective. And then right after you got done with taping, you went and you had your nationals meetings. And, you know, I remember having a meeting and not really expecting to make the mat as a first year person, but, you know, circumstances, you know, with injuries and just people on the team, you know, it was something that I was selected and was asked to do an elite. And it was a skill that I was not particularly proficient at.
What was it?
But double up.
Double up, yeah, sure.
We're talking 2007, but it was double ups. I didn't do the double rewind QPs, but I was one of the people throwing for that, and I was what people do not expect to hear, but I was a shoulder stand as well in that particular routine, and that was my role in that particular routine, along with obviously tumbling and baskets. But those were my roles, and so I really. You know, I was very honored to do that. That was a wonderful team, and, you know, it was a great routine. But 2007, you know, we dropped our ending pyramid. So, you know, it was the very, very last thing. It was something that had never dropped one time in the entire national season.
Of course. Absolutely.
But that day just wasn't our day. So we lost it to UCF, who had a great routine that year. And, you know, that was a very, very difficult experience, you know, to go through, especially because, you know, there were seniors on the team that had never lost before. They had won 3 in a row. And so to kind of be a part of that, you know, was a trying experience, but was one of tremendous growth. Obviously, people were devastated. I made sure to take 5 minutes and kind of let everything set in. And then from there, it was, you know, hey, now it's time to move on and think about, you know, continuing to, you know, what's next and moving on. And I really feel like that, you know, I would have had a different experience had that not been my first year there. I feel like myself and, you know, a couple of the other people I cheered with, it really kind of slingshotted us into our final 3 years where we won 3 in a row.
So, yeah, I mean, what a lot of people, your first year there, you go to Kentucky and you don't win. Do you think that experience overall, for sure, like, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but do you think that experiencing that made you a smarter athlete, though, also? Do you think that it prepared you for a different type of mindset or anything like that?
I really feel like it was mindset, you know, because, you know, for us that year, you know, myself, Jeremy Lumpkin, it was his first year there as well. And then there were some other people that it was our first year on the mat. And I think, you know, the people that were returning did the best job that they could explaining what that experience was going to be like and how, you know, important, you know, every little detail and how we trained and the way that we did it was super important. But, you know, when you kind of do that and go through the letdown and go through that emotional experience, it kind of lights a fire under you. So I would say the biggest thing that it probably changed was our mentality that, like, we weren't going to let anything get in our way. Again, like, we were going to train harder, we were going to train longer, we were going to be more diligent in everything that we did so that, you know, we could have the success that we wanted to have. You know, mistakes do happen, you know, fluke things happen, you know, cheerleading's like that. It's a one day, one try kind of thing.
Yep.
So, but, you know, to put yourself in the best possible position, I feel like it really helped propel us, you know, because had that not happened, we might not have been able to sustain, you know, winning the next 3 in a row, which, you know, maybe we win that one and the next one, and have a letdown later. For me, I feel like it really it helped in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Again, welcome to Full Out Chats. I'm here with Reece White if you're joining us. Again, really quickly, a special thanks to cheeranddancemusic.com for our music intro. I appreciate cheeranddancemusic.com. Now, after that first year, then all of a sudden you made Mad all 4 years. So obviously the competition aspect about Kentucky, obviously it goes without saying. I mean, they're always competitive, always in the discussion. But tell me kind of what is one or two game day memories for you that just popped in your head that were just awesome experiences for you as a college cheerleader?
Well, so, my profile picture on Facebook has been the same one since I had it. And it is, so that my first year at Kentucky was I'm a big football fan. When I went to Kentucky, I wasn't a big basketball fan. I am now, but I wasn't at the time. And so Kentucky had one of its best years in football ever. My first season there, and I really enjoy cheering football games. I've been doing it since I started, and I really like football. So being on the sidelines was a part of cheerleading that I really, really enjoyed. And that year, we had beaten Georgia for the first time in, I want to say, like 25 years. So the goal, people rushed the field, goalpost got ripped down. It was absolutely crazy. And then later that year was the year that we went into triple overtime with LSU when they were ranked number 1, and we won. So I was right on the field when that happened, and just kind of the excitement around the football program at that time, and it was an amazing game day experience.
Mm-hmm. So you go 4 years at Kentucky, and actually, what were you studying? That's another question. Where were you studying at Kentucky? What were you thinking you were going to do, with your degree? A lot of us don't expect to make cheerleading a living, and so we always have these ideas of what we're going to do. So kind of what were you studying at Kentucky, and kind of what were you thinking you were going to do with your life?
Well, like many people, I ended up switching majors. I started out as a biology major, and I enjoyed science and math, so I was kind of going in that direction. And I got 2 years into that degree, and just the amount of I didn't enjoy being in labs. So after going, okay, I'm really not enjoying spending hours and hours in labs. Mm-hmm. I decided that wasn't the degree that was going to be best for me. So I changed and switched to being a finance major, and that's what I graduated with. Okay. So I graduated in finance. I had planned on doing 100 million things, I'm sure, at that time. I feel like at that age, I decided I was doing everything. And, but I decided that for me, I enjoyed business classes. And to me, I went, hey, it doesn't matter what I do, that this is something that I can use in my life.
Mm-hmm. However, you graduate from UK and you end up staying in Washington. And all of a sudden now you are an assistant coach at UK and running the White Squad, helping Jomo out on the program. So kind of tell me, how did that happen? How was the transition from athlete to coach? What were you working full time in addition to coaching? Kind of how was that transition for you, going from full-time student athlete into now trying to juggle a career and juggling coaching at UK?
So yes, as soon as I got done cheering, I became the assistant coach for the White Squad under Josh Adams.
That's right.
And so I just became assistant coach. I had known because my first partner, Tara Allen, she was the one in that position, and she had kind of let the coaching staff know, and I had known because I was friends with her that was going to be her last year in that position, and I just let Jomo and T-Lin know that I was interested if they were interested in having me. Mm-hmm. So after a little bit into as it was getting closer to tryouts, they did try to get me to cheer one more year, but I just didn't feel like my body could hold up, and I didn't want to be the teammate that was doing less because my body was falling apart on me. But they luckily I was very fortunate that they selected me because I wasn't the only person that was interested in that position, but they, let me know that, hey, we want you to do this and think that you'll do a good job. So they asked me to be the White Squad assistant coach, which is really an assistant coach for the whole program. But, and it was something that I was really, really excited about doing. And yeah, so that's kind of how it happened. Somebody was same thing. It just kind of luck that somebody was stepping away right as I was, in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And, after taking that position, I also, was just working, in cheerleading all around town, at all-star gyms and doing lessons and doing camps and, doing everything I could. I didn't have, right when I was starting, a different, I didn't have like a full-time job that wasn't cheerleading.
Mm-hmm.
So it was cheerleading and working with schools and teaching tumbling and working at all-star gyms. And, just really, I was full-time in cheer.
Yeah. How tough of a transition was it? Because obviously you're now coaching people you cheered with. And what was kind of some of the hurdles that you quickly learned going from athlete to coach?
Well, I was very, very fortunate that I had kind of a little bit of a buffer because all the people that I was cheering with were on a different team than I was really overseeing. Mm-hmm. So, there was, and then because of, my relationship with most of the people on the team, I had a lot of support from everybody, but, there are obviously things that change very, very quickly, and with everything. And, you go from trying to, being people's teammates and lifting them up to being their coach and trying to push them. Mm-hmm. In some areas. And, when I took over when I was assistant coach of the White Squad, there's a lot of things that, goals that I had for that group, in terms of, hey, like really, really turning around that group. There was a huge gap, at the time between the White Squad and the Blue Squad in terms of, everything that they did. Mm-hmm. And, during my time there, one of the things I really wanted to do was shorten that gap and then help people move up from the White Squad to the Blue Squad. And so that's really where I put my focus. But I would say for any new coach, it doesn't matter if it's if you've been doing it for a long time, or if you are just starting, or if you're a lot older or a lot younger, the first year is definitely the hardest.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Yeah, Jomo and I talked about that yesterday also. So I'm going to pop this picture up. You said it's a coaching story. So yes. Explain this picture and why you sent it, and kind of your coaching story with this.
All right. So this is just a very, very unique story. But so in this picture, I am a coach at the time. So this was not during my cheerleading career. This was post cheerleading by several years. That picture was taken at LSU. We were on our way to the bus to go to that game that the White Squad was cheering. So I was coaching for the game, and I get a call from one of our athletes that he is going to be leaving the team, and that he is already on his way home, that he is withdrawing from school, and that's the end of it. And he was scheduled to go on this trip. And
no heads up. Literally, you're about to board the bus.
I'm in my car on the way to the bus to drive the 12 hours down to LSU. Uh-huh. So randomly, I had the uniform bag in the back of my car and had the correct uniform that they were supposed to be wearing for the game. And I took it and threw it in, and I was really trying to, I brought it more as a joke, but I ended up cheering a half so that one of the females on the team would have a partner and she wouldn't have to stand there. So I ended up during my coaching career ended up cheering a game for a half. I didn't make it the whole thing, but that way she got to have the full game day experience.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know what I would have done. Yeah. I mean, I definitely would not have suited up just because I couldn't do it, but that's crazy. I mean, just it's stuff like that people don't realize you have to deal with in coaching. I mean, just it's unbelievable that Yeah, I mean that's actually doesn't surprise me too much, actually, unfortunately, but I completely understand where you're going through. So, how many years did you end up staying in Lexington then?
So I was there for a total of 10 years. I was
Okay.
cheering there for 4 years, and then I was the assistant coach of the White Squad for 2, and then the head coach of the White Squad for 4 years before heading on.
So you've been in Lexington. You've established yourself clearly and doing well, and then all of a sudden, I remember getting a text message or a phone call from you about hey, do you want to do lunch sometime? I'm moving to Indianapolis, and so kind of tell us about that story. How did you end up in Indianapolis?
So I've been coaching the White Squad for 4 years. I've been the head coach, and it's a position that is not meant for a long-term. It's not a long-term position would be the best way to put that. And so I had kind of planned on starting to move on. I had gotten a job in an accounting office and at that point had a full-time job along with coaching and then also teaching. So I had a lot going on at that point, but it had just kind of run its course. And that job, it's important to me, that it still be available for people. It's because it is not a long-term job. So after kind of getting the team and feeling like I accomplished most of the goals that I had set out for that group, and that it was time for me to move on. And so I had made that decision. I had let Jomo and Thielen know that I had been planning on moving on at the end of that season. And just right at literally, I think the day after, I got a call from a former teammate of mine, DeVeau's, whose family has a gymnastics facility up in Indianapolis. And, they said, hey, we're trying to, start a cheerleading program up here, an all-star cheerleading program. Would you be interested? And, I said, well, let's sit down and talk about it and see what the position entails, because I was at that point looking for something that was going to be a full-time job. And or one, I should say, full-time job instead of 2 or 3. And so, they came down and met with me in Lexington, and, I really, really like what they do. At their facility, they added a whole cheer area that, for me to grow a program. So I decided that, I had some other things that I was looking at as well, but I decided that I enjoy coaching and, that it was a great opportunity for me. So I decided that I was going to head up to Indianapolis, and it's a little bit closer to home for me. And I obviously have known you forever, and you were up at Purdue, so that I can still be involved with college. So it seemed to me like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I had brought you up multiple times, actually, up to Purdue while you were at Lexington, because literally Purdue is like right in between Lexington and really your hometown. It's right in the middle. And so that
Right
was,
on the way.
yeah, it was really nice. And so for people that do not know, DeVeau's Gymnastics is a nationally renowned facility. I mean, have produced Olympians. For those of you who remember Sam Peshek, she trained there. Multiple college athletes in terms of gymnastics and cheerleading. So, you've been asked to go to DeVeau's and start up a cheer program, but as you quickly learned, you also had to help out with gymnastics. And so kind of how was that transition of learning how to, I remember you telling me about learning to spot bars again and like all this stuff. How was that transition in terms of kind of probably out of your comfort zone a little bit in terms of coaching and helping with gymnastics?
Yeah, it was still coaching, but it was a new opportunity for me. So it was something that I was also looking for. DeVeau's has a lot of like lifetime amazing coaches there, and I felt like I was very fortunate to have Jomo and Thielen and Josh Adams and all the other coaches and people that have been at Kentucky, and that I had gotten so much from them, and completely appreciative of it, but that this was just kind of a new challenge. And when I moved there, because the cheer program was so small, I spent a lot of time working with the gymnasts. I still spend a good amount of time working with the gymnasts, but you know, it was a new challenge, which, you know, if you're following my path, I really enjoy a new challenge. You know, after a while, I like something new. So it was very, very different. I learned to spot all the releases on bars. And I spent a lot of time with our upper level gymnasts who were very brave in letting somebody new spot them on their skills. But that way, I had the opportunity to learn a new skill set. It's really not that different than coaching tumbling, but it's a whole new set of athletes. And you know, kind of as I said before, that first year is usually the toughest year when you're taking a new coaching job. And it was difficult, but it was also a lot of fun.
Been at DeVeau's, and again, when you actually reached out to me, which I appreciated. I mean, I jumped right away. I remember and being like, I would love any way you can come in and help. I would love to have your help. And so all of a sudden, then you're helping me out at Purdue also as much as you can, and have been a huge influence there. I guess, how has it been now? I mean, you've worked with a couple of different college programs, but like you said, you've worked with a lot of different colleges in terms of clinics, camps, things like that. What would you say is something that is, how is college different is the big thing. You've worked with obviously age levels of all different ages and things. How do you feel college is different?
You know, I would say one of the biggest things that makes college what it is the relationship with the university and kind of with the alumni, both of the university and with the program. You know, there are lots and lots of great things about every type of cheerleading, because I've been involved with so many of them now. But I would say the thing that makes college different is, one, your primary focus is not competition. It is supporting the university for most college programs. It is supporting the university and the athletics programs, and then and there is that component that is competitive. But I really feel like it's that you are a part of something that is so much bigger than you, as an individual. And I feel like you feel it the most when you're in that university setting. Both, at every kind of university I've went to and been a part of, you can just kind of really feel the pride that everybody in that area, the student athletes and the coaches, have for the programs there. I'm still, I've become a pretty big Purdue fan, but part of I'll always end up being a Kentucky fan. And that wasn't something that I even, remotely had when I went there. But, 10 years later, I feel like I have a lifelong connection to that city and to that university, just like I feel like so many people have, along with the friendships and the school and the time in your life where you're, really developing into the person that you become.
Just the prom picture that you and Nicole took at Nationals. I wanted to pop that up because I know Nicole would appreciate that. No, it's been unbelievable to work with you, buddy. It's been awesome. I know here at Purdue, and I completely echo what you're saying. Like, I will always love Madison. I mean, I will always be a Badger. But now I just completed my 10th year at Purdue, and I love Purdue. I'll always be a Boilermaker, without a doubt. And so I think that I know exactly what you're saying, and I echo. I said this with Lindsay from Oklahoma State a couple days ago. It's not a rip or anything on high school or All-Stars or anything. Just representing your university just is different. It just, to me, means so much more. And I completely echo with that. So we're going to get into the Q&A here in a second. And before we get to my last question, so I always love to do the little sound effect to... Oh, yeah. All right, now it's time for Q&A. And here we go. First one is, any advice on how to develop quality co-ed programs at the high school level? Question from Wisconsin. So I was fellow Wisconsinite Heather. But yeah, any advice on how to develop or get guys to be high school cheerleaders?
I would say that I thought one of the more creative things was what my coach did. She really wanted to have a co-ed program. The biggest thing with that, especially at the high school level, is finding ways to get males involved and get them in the door. Because I feel like and I'm sure you'd agree that once you start, if you like it, and you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So it's finding creative ways to get those young people in the door and get them going, because at that age, especially males, they all puberty all happens differently, and so it gives them time to develop skills, because it does take time. And the sooner, the earlier, the better, because I would say the more, if I didn't have the amount of time that I had to develop, I don't know if I would have ended up where I ended up. So I would say just be creative on getting people in the gym as much as possible to grow. Because I feel like once you kind of get to that 8 to 12 males in your program, at a high school level, then you'll start to see males bringing in more males and being able to grow that program.
Yep, totally agree. All right, next question is, what motivates you to be the best you can be each and every day?
I'd probably say right now it's a combination of things. It's probably my family is one, that I enjoy working hard. Two would probably be all the people that I've been around. Somebody like T. Lynn Williamson that is 75 and still probably outworks me every single day, kind of keeps me hungry. And then just all the other athletes and alumni and people that I've been around. I just feel like stuff like that is contagious. And so the more you're around it, the more you do it, and the more energy you have. I'm going to thank Adam for his question. He's a high motor guy himself. He's got a whole Rogue Fitness gym in his garage. So he's a former athlete. So I thank him for his question.
Actually, we kind of answered that one. But I think it's a good question though. Talk about the major difference between the college programs you've been at. So, and that's not a knock on any program, and programs are different, so kind of just talk about, I guess, what have some of the differences been, and kind of the influences that maybe you've had as a coach and at these programs.
Every program is different. Programs are structured different. Programs also, some are under athletics, some are under marketing, and some are under different administration. So kind of every program kind of has a slightly different mission. I would say the differences between most of the programs has been, the slight differences in those missions. I would say Minnesota's, their number one mission is probably game day, and they do an excellent job of that. And they have a huge program. Kentucky's program, they are kind of the all around, or at least from everything that they preach and what we're about in terms of just the all around person, all around athlete, all around student. That would be the thing there. Purdue, I would say, also is just kind of excellence, in everything that you're doing and putting your best foot forward. It's hard. I feel like it's hard to compare them, but I would say in terms of differences, similarities, I would say, it's filled with selfless people that care about their athletes and about their university and giving back to their communities. I think is probably what makes them the same. What makes them different is just probably the way that they go about doing it.
All right, and one last question. Does Clark Kent have his cape under his outfit?
Yes. I get that a little bit now that I got the Clark Kent look going. So if that's what you want to call me, Superman or Clark Kent, I guess that's okay. Right now I'm actually all out of contacts, and with everything going on around the country, I really can't get more. So it's gonna be Clark Kent for a while.
Actually, we just got one last question, and I'm going to pop it
Yeah.
up here because from a fellow Wisconsin school. This is from Greendale High School, which I believe you've worked with before.
Mhm.
What is your most memorable competition?
Most memorable competition. In high school, it would have been my state competition my senior year. We had never won as a team. Like my team had never won. We had lost to Sun Prairie, which is the team that Steve coached, and then we also lost to Wisconsin Rapids, which was the team that Steve cheered on when he was in high
I
school.
did.
So. But we hadn't won to that point. In my senior year, we won that competition, and then I also won the partner stunt competition that year. So that was obviously a big competition. 2008 UCA College was my first national championship, and so that one obviously has a huge place in my heart. Cheer sport in 2014, 2015. All those that team was a very, very special team. The white squad that year, we were down in numbers, and it was just one of those things where the sum of the parts was much bigger than the sum of the individuals. So it was a wonderful year. So that one will always hold one. My first one, the first championship year with Purdue, is also one that I will always remember.
Well, so just so you know, there's a 1 hour time limit here on Instagram
Yep.
Live. So if it cuts out, give me a couple of seconds. I'll rejoin it. I'll get you back. And then everybody else that's watching, if all of a sudden it ends, that's why. I'll get it back so we can finish up with Reece if we don't have time here. So my last question that I've been asking everybody is, what do you feel is the best piece of advice or the biggest piece of advice that pops in your head that you've been given that's had the biggest influence on you, either as a person or as a coach?
I'd probably say the biggest one as a coach probably came from my high school coach, because when I've been coaching cheerleading for a while, but I only started taking over teams and coaching teams when I was late in college and after. But so I gave her a call one day and just said, hey, what do I need to know, and what's most important? And she just said, they have to know that you care. And if they know that you care, the rest of it isn't, it gets you a long way. And that's what I've always tried to do whenever coaching or even as a teammate, that, that my actions and that what I'm doing lets everybody around me know that I really care. And, that's the way she worded it to me. But, there's the old coaching adage that, people don't care about what you know until they know about how much you care.
Yep.
So I would say it's definitely just making sure that you are showing regularly how much the people and the team and the individuals really mean to you.
That was great. No, I mean, I 100% agree. If the team, if your athletes know that you genuinely care about them as people, usually makes the job easier. So I agree. And that's why, I mean, I've always enjoyed coaching with you, bud. You're a very even keel coach. You don't yell ever. You just basically start playing the music and expect them to go, which I love. I think that's great. I think we complement each other really well. But, Reece, I just want to say thank you again, man. We went an hour. I know you were thinking we wouldn't go for it, but I knew I'd get it out of you. So again, Reece White, former Kentucky cheerleader and coach, now at DeVeau's Gymnastics and helping me out at Purdue. Reece, thanks again. Hey, stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully once this whole quarantine thing ends, we can meet up and talk about tryouts and get going for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Not a problem, Reece. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Fun.
Yep.
See ya.
Again, that was Reece White. We are probably going to get kicked off of Instagram Live here. So I will probably get kicked off here soon. And then I'm going to restart up the live show because I am so excited to talk about next week's guest. Next week, we have 5 awesome guests lined up. And if you want to know who that is, you will rejoin the live feed real quick. And I will tell you who is joining us next week. And so again, the live feed's about to end, but I'm going to start a new one here in less than a minute. and come back, and I will tell you who our 5 guests are next week. I think you're going to be really impressed. It's got a great variety of coaches and people within the industry that I think you're going to love hearing from. So, again, rejoin the new live feed that I start here in a second.
We have an awesome lineup for next week. Can everybody hear me now? Please comment. Oh, yes. Thank you. All right. You can hear me now. Again, Reece White, awesome coach. Anybody who's ever worked with Reece will know that Reece is an excellent coach. I'm very blessed to have him as part of my staff to help me out here at Purdue. Very technical coach. Like I said, very even keeled, does not yell. Just expects excellence. Just expects people to get the job done. And that's why Reece is definitely one of the best in the business. And again, very lucky to have to work with them. But something I'm very excited to talk to you guys about is next week we have an unbelievable lineup. Again, we're doing these live shows every day until basically I can go back to the office. We will go 5 days a week here for the next few weeks before we probably cut it down to 1 or 2 a week. But on Monday, my first guest, Josh McCurdy. Very, very cool that we got Josh here. He'll be here Monday. He is the V-Rock brand manager, choreographer, U.S. National Junior Co-Ed and all-girl coach, former Morehead State cheerleader. And, Josh will be with me on Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern. Then on Tuesday, Bruce Bills, head cheer, stunt, and mascot coach at Texas Tech University. Texas Tech had an unbelievable routine last year at NCAA Nationals, their large co-ed program. He built something very, very cool there, very great at Texas Tech, and very interested to hear his intake in regards to being in Texas. Texas is his own different culture down there. And as I talked to Lindsay about at Oklahoma State, the unfortunate NCAA being canceled because of the whole coronavirus situation, and to get his take on that. Then on Wednesday, my good friend Mark Coleman, head cheer coach at Morehead State University, is going to be joining me. It's not a coincidence that he not a coincidence that he is going to be joining me. Mark's a great friend of mine. I guarantee you that is going to go well over an hour probably, because Mark and I have been known to chit-chat a little bit. Then on Thursday, Krista Sanford, co-ed coach at the University of Alabama, will be joining me on Thursday, again at 1 o'clock Eastern. Great lady, if you've ever met her. Great insight, not only just a co-ed coach at University of Alabama, she's also an assistant coach for the U.S. National Co-ed team, and helps out Leroy McCullough on that team. And then our final guest on Friday is Jared Erlenbaugh. He is one of the directors of the NCAA Speed Camps. He's also the All-Star director and coach at ICE Barrington, and also is a world champion coach. If you have seen the U.S. Junior Co-ed routine last year, holy cow. It is phenomenal. It is unbelievable that was a routine they threw with 16-year-olds and younger. I mean, a great job by Jared. A really great mind in our industry, and very interested to hear his intake. He is also a former University of Kentucky cheerleader, so he's done it all. He's done UCA with Kentucky. He works with NCAA, All-Stars, international competitions and everything. So again, we have an awesome lineup coming up here next week. But again, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you are enjoying the show. And if you do, please give us a follow here. And also, if you've missed it, and if anybody else misses it, we will be on YouTube and on SoundCloud. And I think we're going to be up on iTunes soon as a podcast. So once that is done, you'll see that announcement. Again, thank you all for joining us. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Practice social distancing, and I will see you Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern, when I interview Josh McCurdy. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.